decimal point at the far right end. For instance, 6,340. Okay, there's nothing there, but if you need a decimal point for some reason, you can put it at the far right end and it's available for use for you. For instance, here's the number 65. Again, you need the decimal point, you put it at the far right end, okay, make it visible, and you're ready to rock and roll if you need a decimal point. Now, changing a fraction into a decimal. For instance, if you are given 3/4 and they say to you, change 3/4 into a decimal point. Again, you go from the fractional form of division and you go to the box of division. And 4 will not divide into 3. So you have to create a 0 in order to keep dividing. As soon as you create a 0, a decimal point will go up into the division answer immediately. And all the numbers that you get from that point on will be to the right of that decimal point. So 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. You subtract, you borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2. Again, another 0. 4 into 20 goes 5 times. Notice that you do not create another 0 or another decimal point, even though you created another 0. 1 decimal point is all you need. Okay, the next part of decimals is adding and subtracting decimals. And the way this works is that you line up the decimal points directly below each other and you just fill in the numbers, and if you get a blank, then you just put a 0 in. Let's take a look at this one. 16.43 plus 2.8. Now, we line up the decimal points directly below each other. All right? And then all we have to do is just put the numbers in alignment. And notice that the 2.8, there was no number to go with the 3, so you create a 0. There was no number to go with the 1, you create a 0. The decimal point in the answer is going to go directly in alignment with the other decimal points. And all you got to do is just add it. 3 plus 0 is 3. 4 plus 8 is 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. 1 plus 0 is 1. And there you have your answer. Okay. This one, 3.445 minus 2.84. And again, I aligned up the decimal points directly below each other, and I just filled in the numbers. And the only number that I didn't have was a number for the 5, and so I just created a 0. When I write my answer, the decimal falls again directly in line with the other decimal points, and then I just add, subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. 4 minus 4 is 0. This 4 is not big enough for the 8, so it must borrow. This becomes 2, and again, it's always factors of 10. This becomes 14 minus 8, and the answer is 0.605. Okay, multiplying decimals. For instance, the example 64.3 times 0.26. Now, your first step is to count the numbers to the right of the decimal point for each number. Now, 64.3 has the 3 only to the right of the decimal point, so it's one number. 0.26 has the 2 and the 6 to the right of the decimal point, so it has 2 numbers. Now, what you do is you add up the 1 and the 2. Okay, which represents the numbers to the right of the decimal point. So we have 3 numbers to the right of the decimal points. Now your next part is you carry out your multiplication and you forget about the decimal points. Just carry out your multiplication. So you have 26 times 643. 6 times 3 is 18, carry the 1. 6 times 4, 24. 24 plus 1 is 25. Put the 5 down, carry the 2. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 plus 2 is 38. Then carry out 2 times 643. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 6 is 12. Okay, and then you just fill in the zeros. Okay, there wouldn't normally be a number here, so I put a 0 here and a 0 here just to make sure that I don't get confused. Okay, and just carry out the addition. 8, 11, carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 8 is 17, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. Okay, and 0 plus 1 is 1. Now, you're ready to start putting in a decimal point. And the way you do this is you put an invisible decimal point to the far right. Okay, there's an invisible decimal point right here for any whole number. And you count to the left the number of numbers to the right of the decimal point, which was 3. Here's the invisible decimal point. You go 1, 2, 3. Notice you're going in between the numbers. And when you hit 3, put the decimal point in, and you have your answer. 16.718. The last part of working with decimals, of course, is dividing them. Now, let's say I give you a problem, 12 divided by 24. Okay, 24 divided into 12 won't work. So you must create a 0, which means the decimal point is going to go immediately into the division answer. So I create a 0, immediately a decimal point goes up there, and 24 goes into 125 times, or 2 into 12 6 times. 6 times won't work, try 5, and it works out perfectly. The answer is 0.5. Now another variation they might give you is that they give you a whole number and it's being divided by a number with a decimal point. Here we have 64 divided by 1.2. I set it up in the box form, 1.2 divided into 64. The problem is that you cannot divide a whole number by a decimal number. Okay? You have to have a whole number being divided by a whole number. So you must change 1.2 into 12. So you move the decimal point 1 to the right to create the whole number 12. But in math, in division, what you do to one side, you got to do to the other. So if I move a decimal point 1 this way, I've got to move the decimal point for 64 1 to the right. So I put in my invisible decimal number at the end of 64. And since I don't have a number here, I create a 0, and I move the decimal point 1 to the right. And now I have 12 divided into 640. And when you carry that out, you're going to end up with a repeating 3 into infinity.